his eye, a lot of times they'll react to that. And since he can't really tell what it is, are you tired, buddy? A lot of times they'll explore by opening their mouth up and trying to see if it's food or what it is. And so if he does start to open his mouth towards your arm, just move your arm away. Don't let him, nibble on you or anything. And so he'll do real slow pets down the middle of the back. We'll put one hand underneath the booty to be able to support him and pet him just like that. He's going to wrap around you, and his legs are really cool, and a lot of people are tempted to kind of pull the legs away and look at them, but the legs are their security blanket. That's how they feel most comfortable when they're holding on to you, so try not to mess with those too much. And for Dash, sometimes it can be really tempting to scratch him on the underside of his chin, because a lot of times he'll turn his head backwards and be looking back behind to see what's going on back there, and a cat might really like that, but for a sloth, something all of a sudden touching their neck that they can't see coming can be kind of alarming, so we do try to avoid that. But he's going to wrap his legs just around your torso, and you'll put one hand underneath the booty, and then one you'll put on his back. There you go, bud. So what's going on back there? Dash is our most ADHD sloth, and he likes to know what is going on around him at all times. So a lot of times he'll be looking backwards. And they have excellent core strength, so he has the ability to completely let go of you with his front legs and just be reaching back, looking back behind him. And so they're very unlike babies in that way, that a lot of people feel like they have to really constrict a baby, make sure you support them, because for them, they can't do a pull-up. But he can do a pull-up a lot quicker than I could. It's really cool. We'll see if he's hungry at all. He didn't eat too much breakfast this morning. You're looking around a lot. Are you hungry? Are you hungry? Might be able to hold that with one hand right there, see if he's interested in it.
Okay, the picture's covered there. I don't need to take it here.
We're on a live stream right now on Facebook and TikTok. So the Facebook one will be there later that you'll be able to go and take a look at. But if you want to take your own pictures and stuff too, that would probably be the best idea. And I can take pictures for you too and everything as well. What are you looking at, baby?
Make sure your flash is off.
We can be on.
How long has Dash been up so far?
From his nap?
Yeah.
He just woke up a few minutes ago. Yeah, just before you guys came down. Since their eyesight is so poor, their sense of smell and their sense of hearing is actually really heightened. So even just a little bit of colognes or perfumes or lotions that people have on, they really pick that up and they'll sniff you to death. What are you looking for? Your food's right beside you. You want some breakfast? Even if he can't see it, he still is able to smell it, so he'll know that it's there. He's too interested in that. We'll see if he wants any of these little.
Just reaching back for whatever.
What's that? He reaches back just because he sees the movement back here. Sloths are really reactive to movement because for them, they have essentially no defense mechanism. And in the wild, if they're just hanging onto a branch, minding their own business, and out of nowhere a jaguar sees them, that jaguar is not going to come barreling out on the end of that branch towards the sloth. They're going to be sneaking up really slow. And so it's really hardwired into a sloth to be able to react to that type of movement. So if they see even just a little bit of movement out of the corner of their eye, they're going to look, they're going to react to it and see if it's something that's supposed to scary or if it's food or what it is. And in the wild, really their first line of defense is to just get to the very end of that branch, because at the end of that branch is going to get a lot thinner. Maybe, and that branch breaks, that's kind of best case scenario for the sloth, because sloths are built to be able to withstand a fall from up to 100 feet in the air and be completely unharmed. On the inside, you wouldn't think it looking from the outside, but on the inside, they're kind of built like trucks. They've got a total of 46 ribs, so that's 2 sets of 23. We've just got like 23 or 24 up at the top. All this is exposed, but for them, everything is protected. And when they hit the ground, all of their bones are really pliable, so their rib cage will just kind of flex under their body weight and then go back to normal. And so they don't really sustain broken bones nor internal damage because they've got a lot of connective tissue that's holding all of their organs right in the middle where they're supposed to be. So unlike us, if we get into a car accident, you know, really all of our organs get jostled around, but it's not the same way for them. You're being picky today, aren't you? Usually he loves his rice. Would you, buddy? Is this the first time you guys have ever been around a sloth?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Besides looking at one through a zoo cage.
Yeah. We have all of the same licenses and accreditations as a zoo and everything, we just don't label ourselves as a zoo, because at a zoo, you're not gonna get this kind of experience where you're actually able to interact with them. And for the most part, there's not a whole lot of sloths that are comfortable with this type of interaction. A lot of, you know, sloths naturally are very solitary animals, and even though Dash was born and raised in captivity around people his whole life, that doesn't guarantee that he's gonna be, you know, comfortable with being around people. So a lot of conditioning and training and effort went into him when he was a really young sloth, even before he was weaned from his mother. The breeder was working with him for short amounts of time throughout the day, at certain times throughout the day, to get him used to it. And so that's why both Dash and Zoe are comfortable with being held. They actually genuinely enjoy it and seek it out, not just tolerating it. Like Flash, he's our oldest sloth, he's 7 years old, and when we got him, he was already 3. And he didn't come from the same breeder that Dash came from, and so they didn't condition him in the same way. He was comfortable with people, like going into his enclosure, he'd be fine, but not, you know, one-on-one, he was never touched or anything beforehand, so it took him a long time to get to the point where he's at now, where he'll actually come out, he'll hook onto the door frame and come out there onto that branch to get his breakfast in the mornings. And he does that even before we have his breakfast ready. I get here at 9:30 and I open up his door and start chopping up everybody's breakfast, and he knows before long that, you know, he's gonna be getting it, so he a lot of times will beat us on coming down. What do you think, buddy? Did you get full now? I'm gonna keep it here just in case.
Big yawn, look at that.
I always tell people that yawn's like the cutest / scariest thing ever, because you wouldn't think for that cute little face to have that many razor sharp teeth back behind in their mouths, but they do. And if you were to look at the skull of a sloth without knowing anything about them, you would definitely think they were like top of the food chain for sure, because of how sharp all of their teeth are. They don't have any in the very front, but 4 on the sides, those 4 canines that you first come to are really sharp. And then back behind them, all of their molars are all pointed, they're not flat like ours are. And so you'd think that they were like a carnivore or a meat eater, but in reality, to see what they actually are is pretty ironic. It kind of makes you second guess some of the dinosaurs, if they were actually as vicious as we make them out to be, or if once you add skin and fur and muscle and everything, that it's a lot different.
What does the diet of a sloth consist of?
So in the wild, they're native to Central and South America, and down there they'd be eating the sarcopia leaves, about 95% sarcopia leaves. The two-toed sloths vary a little bit. They'll eat a small variety of bugs and insects that are on those leaves, like they'll actually seek them out if they see a little moth or something, and they'll lick that up. Or like lizards and things like that, they'll also eat those, or if they were to come across a really small bird's nest with some really young baby birds in it, they would eat those. But the three-toed sloths are really strict to just the sarcopia leaves. And then another little percent would be the moths that are living on their backs. They have a symbiotic relationship with those moths. They'll lick some of those up, and that's their protein source, because leaves don't have any protein in them. So about 95% leaf material. And in the wild, you know, those sarcopia trees don't grow here, and we don't have any leaves that closely represent the same type of nutrients that those leaves would give to the sloths. And so it's about 75% leaf material and real dark leafy greens like spinach and kale, spring mix and things like that. But then they'll also eat that mixture there that you've got, that's rice and sweet potato and really high quality dog food that's been soaked in water and then mixed into it. And that's where they get their protein from for the first about 2 years of their lives. And then they switch over onto actually 2 hard-boiled eggs a week, and that's all of their protein requirements that they need. 1 hard-boiled egg has about 16 grams of protein in it, and 2 a week is really all that their systems need because of how slow their metabolisms are and how slow they process everything. But they'll also eat, you know, sweet potatoes and squash and zucchini, corn, a small percentage of fruits. They are a fan of the fruits, but too much fruit at once can cause an overgrowth of yeast in their system, and so that's really sensitive for the sloths, and we have to pay attention to that. And since it takes so long for everything to digest through their system, it takes about 30 days from start to finish for one pot of food to go all the way through. And for that reason, they only go to the bathroom once a week. It's only about every 7 to 10 days that they do go. And when they go to the bathroom, they come all the way down to the base of the tree to go to the bathroom, in captivity and in the wild. In the wild, of course, it's a much longer trek because those trees can grow up to be 100 feet in the air. Plus, but they go all the way down to use the bathroom, and that's for a very specific reason. It would make a lot more sense if the sloths could just stay up in the tops of the trees because that's where they're most protected. It's where they've got the most foliage and greenery around them. And wild sloths will start to develop moss and algae all over their backs to kind of camouflage themselves in. They'll have kind of a green tint to them. But they have to do that. They have to go all the way to the floor once a week to go to the bathroom in the same exact spot every single time because of the symbiotic relationship that they have with those moths that live on the back of the wild sloth. And it's a symbiotic relationship, meaning that both parties benefit. So not only the moths benefit, but the sloths do as well. And neither one would be able to survive without the other one in the wild. It's a very specific type of moth, and they have a long scientific name, but for our purposes, we just call them the sloth moths, because the only place that they live in the entire world is on the back of the sloth. And the only time that they're not on the sloth is when they're down in the waste product of the sloth, laying their eggs before they crawl back up, and that's why they have to go down there. When they go all the way down, they'll hold on to the base of that tree, wiggle their little booties back and forth as they're going to the bathroom, and that signals those moths to come down and lay their eggs. And they only have a minute or two to do that before the sloth starts to go back up, so they've got to do it pretty quick, and they'll crawl back onto the sloth. And those moths can't fly like other moths can, and that's why, if they could fly, the sloths could go to the bathroom up in the tops of the trees, the moths could fly down, lay their eggs, and then fly back up. But it doesn't work like that for them, so that's why they have to do that. And then a week later, when the sloth gets the urge to go to the bathroom again, they go back to the same spot because in that spot are last week's eggs that have now developed into this week's larva, and last week's larva are now this week's moths, and so the cycle is always repeated. And it's really important for the sloths to have those moths on their backs because they'll produce a specific type of bacteria in their waste that the sloths will actually utilize to digest their food. And if they don't have that bacteria in their system, they're not going to be able to get any nutrients from the food that they're eating. And they could actually pass away with a full belly of food, unable to digest any of it, and they could pass from starvation. So that's what happens sometimes to these guys in the wild. If you go and do a sloth encounter down there with a sloth that doesn't have any moss or algae on it, those guys have been dumped in buckets of cleaner to scrub all of that off because people don't like to hold sloths that are gross. And so, they'll do that to a sloth down there, and those sloths require that bacteria that they're getting from their backs to be able to digest their food. And if they don't have any of that bacteria on them, they'll pass from starvation. And that kind of beckons the question then for these guys, because you can see they don't have any moss or algae on them either. And they never have it, and they never will. They have the ability to form it. Their little hairs have little micro cracks throughout it that rainwater will gather in and form that algae over time. But we've never given them the possibility to, because they have to be outside getting rained on multiple times in a row to be able to start to form that. And if they had a preference, they'd rather be inside rather than getting rained on. It's pretty funny to see Flash. If he's outside in his outdoor enclosure and it starts to sprinkle, he skedaddles in pretty quickly. Most people think about sloths being real slow animals, but when they're on a mission, they can move pretty quickly, especially in captivity when they get a lot higher quality food. But
what's the top speed of a sloth?
I'm not sure exactly for miles per hour, but there's a specific, if you look at the shop, there's tracking bracelets up there, the fallow tracking bracelets for the sloths, and it apparently calculates like feet per day or something like that the sloths will move, and they update it every few days or so. That was pretty cool to see that, but I'm not sure exactly. It kind of differs from sloths to sloths. Different research will show that some sloths will stay in the same tree for a long time and not move around a whole lot at all, and other sloths are a lot more active. So it kind of plays into the environment that they're at. If they're around a lot of trees that don't have a whole lot of foliage and don't have a lot of leafage, because the sloths aren't going to just eat any of the leaves that are on the trees. They really prefer the fresher leaves that are just starting to grow out on the very end of the branches, because those leaves don't have as much cellulose in them. They're a lot easier to digest for the sloths, don't take as much energy to process. And those sarcopia leaves will start to form a toxin in them over time that aren't as prevalent in the young leaves, but in the older leaves that are more at the trunk of the tree, there's a lot more toxins in those that can be harmful for the sloths.
Looks like you're gonna fall asleep on me.
Did you guys wanna trade out? Were you wanting to hold for a little while, or were you gonna hold for the whole time?
It's up to you, baby. This is
You can hold it the whole time.
maybe you can hold the sloth.
Okay, I'll hold it.
You're not sure you're gonna be able to see.
Did you get good pictures and everything? Do you want me to take some more?
I did not get it.
He tries. And that's what matters.
Sometimes he poses a lot better for me anyway, because he sees me moving around back here and he'll look back at me rather than if somebody's right next to him. What do you think? Well, I'm gonna get some close-ups of his face too. There's little face. There's like no thoughts behind those eyeballs.
Food.
Sometimes all I see is just a little buffering signal on the back of his head. I honestly don't think that there's many brain waves going on in there. Alright, well, I guess I'll set this right here, because I'm gonna transfer him over onto you, so you won't have to hold on to the
He's
phone.
ready for you.
Go. When we first got him, he was so little that he couldn't even wrap his legs around our torso like that, and so he would only be able to hold on to our arms, and so that's why he's still used
So
to it.
sweet. He
Yeah.
just looks like a stuffed animal.
Okay.
They're a lot softer than a lot of people think that they will be.
Hi, pretty baby.
Are you hungry again? What do you think? Should we some of that now? No? You don't want any? Sometimes it just takes them a second to kind of settle in.
Send that to your mom.
For their eyes, they have a condition that's called rod monochromacy, and that means that they only have rod cells in their eyes and no cone cells. We have both, and the cone cells allow us to see color, while the rod cells pick up motion. So they can really only see motion pretty well, and the others it's just in black and white. And what they do see is basically just blobs and shapes. It's kind of like night ogle vision, if you've ever seen a movie that shows some of that with that kind of green hue to it. They probably don't have that green hue because they are colorblind, but what they do see is basically just shapes. They can't really distinguish, you know, if I'm standing here and somebody's standing right next to me and he hears me talking over here, he's not going to be able to tell which is which. He just knows I'm over here somewhere. But he does respond to my voice. He understands, you know, that's what he hears every day, and so that's how he associates with me.
Where are the ears on a sloth?
They're just hidden right behind a little tuft of hair on both sides of the head. If you remind me when I go to transfer him back here in a minute, when he crawls onto my arm, I'll show you. But if I go to step over there right now, he's going to think that I'm transferring. He'll be trying to look to grab onto my arm.
How does it feel to know you're a sloth's best friend?
Well, I like to think that he thinks I'm his best friend, but it's more of just a routine-driven thing. He really enjoys doing the same thing in the same way every day. And while I'm a familiar voice to him, I'm not sure that I'm his favorite person because he stays at the main house most of the time. And up at the main house in the evenings, he gets to sit on John's lap in the evenings and hold and get his dinner that way. So John, I think, is really his favorite person right now. But it's I'm definitely in the lead for first because I do all of his sloth encounters. So I'm the person that's always in here and hears me talking and everything. So he associates with my voice, but I try not to hold him a whole lot in the middle of encounter. Like today is kind of a slow day, and this afternoon he actually doesn't have any encounters. So I still will hold him for an hour in the afternoon because he has an hour in the morning and an hour in the afternoon of his encounters. And he likes to stick to that. He knows right at about 4 o'clock when usually a farm tour goes right through, and when he hears a lot of people talking out there and moving around, he starts to get a lot more active, looking around, seeing where I'm at, because he knows that somebody's going to be coming soon to hold him, and they do actively seek out that interaction. Earlier, I went ahead and picked him up before you guys came in because he had actually uncovered himself, was reaching out and trying to grab onto somebody because he knew right at about this time is when he's supposed to have his encounter. You guys are actually his first encounter for the day. We've slowed down quite a bit. Usually in the summer, we stay booked up weeks, months in advance, but in the fall, it starts to slow down quite a bit.
We got lucky.
Yeah.
We got real lucky.
Yeah.
Because we found you guys, and we're staying at Ocoee River Retreat, and they've got like a list of nearby activities that you can do, and I was like, a farm tour? And then James was looking at the website and saw the sloth encounters, and I was like, that is what I want to do.
At first it was gonna be the horseback ride, but I'm a little heavy for those horses.
So are you guys doing the farm tour, or have you already done it?
That'll be later on. After this, we have the kangaroo feeding
Okay,
and the farm tour.
yeah, cool. How far is the Ocoee River retreat from here?
40 minutes.
Yeah.
But we stopped and ate at Golden Yolk, which
Yeah,
was 20 minutes away,
yeah.
and we just got here early.
I think it's probably about 30 minutes because we went back into Cleveland
Mm,
for breakfast and drove back out this way.
yeah.
It was on the way.
Was it? Okay.
It's normally 40 minutes, but it was only 20 today because we stopped for breakfast.
Yeah. So how many lodging places do they have there at the retreat?
3.
3.
We've got the Love Nest, Beloved, and the 143.
Mm, yeah.
We're staying in Beloved.
Yeah. It's pretty nice. Yeah. You can see those little pupils, they're tiny little pinpoint dots in the daytime, but at night they dilate quite a bit because they actually will see a lot better at night than they can in the day. They have what's called bright blindness, so when the sun's out, they really can't see much of anything, which is why scientists used to think they slept a lot more in the day than they actually do. They really only sleep about 12 to 13 hours, but scientists used to think that they slept about 20 plus hours a day because sloths don't move around a whole lot during the daytime because that's when a lot of other things that could potentially eat a sloth are also awake. And they can't really see anything to begin with, so a lot of times what will happen is that they'll be on the move, going to grab onto another branch if they've been startled by something, and they'll grab onto what they think is the next branch, and it can actually be their own leg, and so sometimes they'll fall from that. On average, they do fall out of the trees that they're living in about once a week, so it does happen quite often, which is a good thing that they're able to withstand those falls, because otherwise we wouldn't have sloths around anymore. And it doesn't make any sense for these animals to still be alive and thriving the way that they are, but they beat all odds for sure. And that's kind of the idea of breeding the sloths and having captive raised sloths in captivity, because they're not endangered yet. Their habitat definitely is. The rainforest is ever shrinking, but it's kind of the same premise of the white rhinos. If we had not bred those in captivity, we wouldn't have them around anymore. And they're not to that, to that level yet, but we hope to keep it that way as long as we have a population of captive, born and raised sloths, and we're always going to have them around. And the two-toed sloths do fairly well in captivity. The three-toed, however, they don't do as well because they don't, their diets are extremely sensitive. They really only eat the Cercopia leaves, and so it can be really difficult to keep those. Now, I did have an encounter the other day that this lady was swearing up and down that she did an encounter with a sloth in Texas that was a three-toed sloth. And I was like, are you sure? Because it can kind of be confusing because he's considered to be a two-toed, but the back feet he has 3. And so I was like, maybe he had 3 on the back, you just didn't see the front. She's like, no, he had 3 on the back and 3 on the front. And so kind of to find out after doing some research, they do have one down there. I'm not sure exactly how long it's been there, but it's definitely beat all odds because their diets are extremely sensitive. I'm not exactly sure what they've been feeding them there, but now they have been making some efforts in southern parts of California and Florida to try to get some of those groves growing of the Cercopia trees. They would really do best in a greenhouse environment because they really require it to be real hot and humid. But with those trees growing to be up to 100 feet in the air, it doesn't work out as best. So we've definitely been trying to be pretty cool if they were able to get some of those growing pretty well. It's just laid out. Some people say that he kind of looks like a little fruit bat with his face and the legs, how they bend out like that. You can kind of see it. Dash is a lot darker than our other 2 sloths. What are you looking at? You see him moving around back there? What do you think?
You're really going out there, buddy.
And Zoe especially. Zoe puts full trust in people that she has literally just met. And I'm like, I don't understand why you think that people are just gonna hold you, which I mean, they always do, but she will, I mean, just completely let go with her front claws and just like be leaning back. Like I've never actually even seen him completely let go like that. Are you not hungry at all, buddy? But Zoe, she's a 15-pound sloth, and she'll be leaning all the way back like that, completely letting go, and sometimes she'll clasp her little claws together just like this, and it's the cutest thing ever. But Dash usually is not as exploratory. I think it's because he had a real long nap, and now he's awake, and he's ready to be moving around.
Stretch it out, buddy.
You get the much more active version. Usually he just zonks right out when he's on people. What do you do, buddy? Buddy.
He's fully letting go with his arms.
He knows it, trust me.
And it's impressive how quickly that they can pull themselves back up. And they can actually, if he was be hanging on that branch, completely let go with his front claws, extend all the way down to where he's completely upside down, and then pull himself back up and go back up onto that branch. And they do that quite often, especially in the wild. If they're on one branch and there's a branch down below them, they want to eat some of those leaves. Instead of having to go all the way back to the trunk of the tree, down and then back out that branch, they can just reach down there, grab that branch with their claw, and bring it up to them so they can pluck off those leaves. He's probably got abs of steel underneath all that hair. What time is you guys' kangaroo encounter?
2 p.m.
That's worked out pretty well in your schedule then to have the encounter now.
You want to hold it again?
Well, we only have a minute or two left, and really the transferring part of the encounter is the only uneasy part for them, just because they're in the air for a minute and not actually holding on to anybody. We do try to limit the amount that we do transfer like that, but if you want me to take some more pictures of both you guys in together, I can do that.
You gonna leave it like moving?
Okay.
What was that?
What'd you hear, buddy? What you do, bud? We'll get a few just to him now. What are you looking at? Alrighty. Let's see what time it is. Yep, well, it's right out of time for you guys to start with the kangaroos now, so go ahead and put him back up for now. There we go, bud.
Thanks for hanging out
You're
with
very
us.
welcome. I'm glad you guys were able to come and spend some time with him. Hopefully get some good pictures. I tend to take a lot of them, so I'll have to go through all those.
Yeah, thank
But
you.
you're very welcome. We'll head back out here real quick and just sanitize one more time before we start with the kangaroos. And you guys are actually getting the bottle feed?
Yes.
Yeah, cool. Right here is the sanitizer. You guys are here. You're welcome. Has it been?
It has, but I'm gonna talk for just a second. Can I borrow that guy? Awesome. Hey guys, Kevin here. Just wanted to take a couple minutes and tell you about some awesome stuff that's going on. So we have a little bit of availability with the covered wagons right down on the river. Fall is a beautiful time to come visit Ocoee Riverside Farm. The leaves are starting to change. You can hang out, visit with these cool guys. The horse rides are great. But the weather is really starting to be nice. I mean, summer's good too, you know, but that crisp fall air is really, really awesome. The covered wagons are heated and cooled. So even if it does get a little chilly at night, you're not going to be cold inside the wagons. And then we have the Riverside cabin, and you can come and bottle feed baby camels. Yeah, pretty cool. They're getting ready to do the baby kangaroos, and we're going to head out there in just a moment. But I wanted to let you guys know about all that other awesome stuff that I might have forgotten earlier. So, thank you for listening. And we're going to go out there and hang out with John. I just was giving him a second to get set up, and I'm sure Michaela needed to give her voice a break. But again, we are located in Benton, Tennessee, halfway between Chattanooga and Knoxville. And if you want to come on out, go to our website at Ocoee Riverside Farm.com. Our farm store is open Monday through Saturday. I think it's 10 to 5 now. And so if you're just in the area, feel free to come on by, go to the farm store, and if we have any encounters, you can sign up that day. We do field trips. A lot of people ask that. You can go on there and there's a form, put in everything you need for the field trip. But yeah, we do field trips and they're pretty awesome. Alright guys, let me get this set up and we're gonna head on out.
Alright guys, these are baby kangaroos. These guys are all still on the bottle. Our kangaroos here, we feed bottles until they're 18 months old. Nutritionally, they only need the 10 months. But socially, the longer you feed a baby kangaroo bottle, the friendlier kangaroo you will get. And an adult male kangaroo can get bigger than you. So you want them to be friendly. And there are very few places that do bottle feed their baby kangaroos long term, simply because it is prohibitively expensive. It costs about $50 per day per kangaroo on the bottles. And we feed them all the way to 18 months. So we're here on the baby kangaroo encounters. That's primarily what we're going to talk about today is baby kangaroos, reproduction, gestation, that sort of thing. The kangaroos are marsupials, meaning mammals with pouches. The marsupials, many of them have 2 uteruses, so do kangaroos. When a female kangaroo continually makes a chemical similar to pitocin. Do you need me to take him so you can do stuff?
No, I didn't. I explained out there.
Okay, good. Yeah. I don't know if you were starting to paint or if that's going to come tomorrow, because obviously you can't get around to that paint.
Oh, I'm just gonna spray it.
Yeah, well, it'll still get into it. All right, so a female kangaroo continually makes a chemical similar to pitocin. She makes it all of the time. She'll bite right through your shoelace. They make it all the time unless they are malnourished or dehydrated. If they're malnourished or dehydrated, they stop making pitocin, which is the chemical you give to a human female to induce labor, because they won't birth the baby they can't nourish. The kangaroo, when they get pregnant, their gestation is required 33 days. Fertilization of birth, 33 days. But the uniqueness of a kangaroo, among other things, is that a kangaroo will be pregnant every day of its life, with very rare exceptions, after their first baby. When the baby is born, it is the size of a jelly bean, weighs 2 grams. I'll show you a picture of one recent right here. Crawls on its own up to its mother's pouch, latches onto its teat, and does not let go even once for a minimum of 90 days. Sorry, minimum of 70 days, up to 90 days. That is a baby kangaroo. It is just latched onto a teat. You can see that it has no back legs, no tail, no eyes. It just has these two tiny little front feet right there. That's how it crawls up to mom's pouch, and it is the size of a jelly bean, 2 grams. When the baby latches onto the teat and the mother starts to provide milk to the baby, that makes a second chemical that blocks the Pitocin, so the mother doesn't just birth back to back to back. So the second chemical blocks the Pitocin. The kangaroo latches onto a teat and stays latched on for 70 to 90 days. During that whole period of time, mom is making something more similar to colostrum than milk because she's essentially nursing an embryo. They call it a semi-embryonic state until the baby starts to nurse and release. Then you would call it baby. But the kangaroo will remain in the pouch. As when it starts to nurse and release, it shifts mom over from making colostrum to making milk. Baby will continue in the pouch. First time it will stick its face out of the pouch is 6 months of age. First time it will jump out of the pouch is 7 months of age. From 7 to 8 months, the baby can go in and out of the pouch. About 8 months, it gets too big to fit into the pouch anymore. And then it will just put its face into the pouch to drink milk. And it will be weaned around 10 months. The babies, when they're weaned, the females are chased away from the group. The females will become part of the group. The normal family group for red kangaroos is 1 male, 50 females. So if you want to be 1 male, 49 have got to go, and that's the way they roll. The kangaroos, so that all sounds fairly normal. From there it gets weird. A kangaroo is designed to birth as many babies as it can nourish and no more. And because of the jelly bean that crawls up to the pouch thing, they don't always make it. So they've got a backup plan. So when the baby latches onto the teat and starts to drink milk, that's what makes the second chemical that blocks the Pitocin. But if the baby does not make it to the pouch within 2 days, it takes 2 days to build up enough Pitocin to induce labor again. So after 2 days, boom, fire 2, birth from the second uterus. So every time that a kangaroo births one, it has 2 opportunities. One to make it to the pouch and become a viable embryo. So what happens if the first one does make it to the pouch and it turns the blocker on? Because there's already another one ready to be born, right? So what happens is embryonic diapause. The baby will free spring in utero. It will not progress, it will not regress. It will remain exactly the way it is from 33 days until forever. And that can be days, weeks, months, or years. Until mom is ready to deliver another baby. When the mother gives birth, it is birthing something, as we said, jelly bean size, 2 grams, so it's not a remotely traumatic delivery. And the female, when it has an open uterus, it will be in heat until it doesn't. So it will breed back generally the same day, next day. So with a 2-day gap between possibly delivering another baby and breeding back the same day, that means they will literally be pregnant every day of the rest of their life. Rare exception. So if it breeds back the same day, next day after it gives birth, and it's already got 1 on diapause, that means after 33 days of gestation, it now has 2, both on embryonic diapause. Won't progress, won't regress, remain exactly the way they are from 33 days until forever, waiting for mom to be ready to deliver another baby. There are 2 things that make a female ready to deliver another baby. That is, number 1, if it stops nursing whatever baby it is currently nursing, it will take the blocker off and deliver another baby 2 days later. Number 2, as I said, they are designed to birth as many as they can nourish and no more. So if the female becomes overweight, that means she has the ability to be nursing more babies. So we'll double up the production of Pitocin to bypass the blocker and birth another one, even though it already has 1 nursing. If she gets overweight and delivers another baby after the existing baby has already shifted from colostrum to milk, 1 teat will start over with colostrum for the new baby, while the other teat continues to make milk for the already existing baby. That's the only animal I'm aware of that can make 2 different products with its 2 different teats at the same time. The baby kangaroos, when they come out of the pouch at 7 10 months, the females become part of the group, the males will be chased away. The females are breeding age at 18 months, and they must be bred prior to 2 years. A kangaroo doesn't complete the development of its reproductive system until it is active, and if it is not active prior to 2 years, its body will lose the ability to complete the development of the reproductive system. So that kangaroo would be an old maid forever. That's another form of drought control. So the kangaroos have a brutal but effective means of surviving, generally, and of surviving droughts. A female is not at all close to their babies. So if she is being pursued by a predator and has a baby in the pouch big enough to slow her down, she very well might throw the baby down for bait and ditch. If the female were to have a mantra, that mantra would be, live to have more at all costs. And so if she becomes malnourished or dehydrated, throw the baby away and ditch. Live to have more. In the case of a drought, and all the kangaroos are going to get malnourished, dehydrated, their brutal but effective means of surviving the drought on the whole, the moth, is throw all of the babies away. That puts cap on the demand on mothers' bodies, cap on the demand on the food source. They won't birth anymore until the drought is done, because if they're malnourished or dehydrated, remember they don't make pitocin. So they won't birth anymore until the drought ends. A drought in a desert place can last for as much as 2 or 3 years. So that means that they could be going without babies for a long time. And that gives them the best odds of surviving because limited food source, limit the number of kangaroos eating the food source. So if the drought is really long and say only half of them survive, the family group normally is 1 male, 50 females. So the 1 male is statistically insignificant. We're talking about 50. So if the 50, if only half of them survive, your numbers go 50 to 25. A drought in a desert place ordinarily ends with extremely heavy rainfall. So everything turns lush and green all of a sudden, even in the desert, when it rains hard at the end of the drought. Kangaroos will then all renourished, rehydrate pretty quickly at the end of the drought, and they'll all give birth to one of the 2 that have been waiting for as much as a couple of years to be born. They'll all birth their first baby. Then, because everything is now lush and green, they'll all be gorging themselves on all the suddenly plentiful food. And in a short period of time, they'll all be overweight, so they'll all birth a second time. So that means your numbers will then have gone 50, 25, 50, birth once, 75 when they birth twice. Or suppose that the drought was shorter and they did better through the drought, that might mean 50, 40, 80, 120. So you can make the argument that a drought is a good thing for kangaroo populations, because they will come out of the drought stronger by individual, because the strong will survive, and more plentiful in number because they'll all birth twice. So you can make the argument that a drought is a very good thing for kangaroo populations. The most recent study I'm aware of on kangaroo populations, I think it was 2016, and they estimated that there are 16 million humans in Australia and roughly 55 million kangaroos and wallabies in Australia. So they outnumber humans at least 3 to 1. And that is why they are just prolific.
Who made it 2 or 4?
2. So half.
Yeah.
The kangaroos are moving machines. So an adult male kangaroo can jump at least 20 feet from a standstill. These lines in the floor are 16 feet apart, so are the fronts of the stall, 16 feet. So that means that an adult male kangaroo can jump further than from that line to that line, from a standstill. On subsequent jumps, they can jump about twice that far. So a kangaroo that is already moving can jump somewhere around 40 feet in a single bound. The kangaroos, the females max out around 28 miles an hour, the males max out around 45 miles an hour. And the males grow forever. If they are alive, they are growing like a tortoise. In captivity, in the wild, they do well to make 5 years. This one is Phoebe. She's the first baby that was actually born here on the farm. You want to hold her, you put one hand across under her front feet and So in captivity, an adult male kangaroo can live 20 years because they don't suffer from the threats that they do in the wild. So given that they never stop growing in captivity, the record for an adult male kangaroo is 6'7", and that is standing on the ground. 6'7", nose to tail, more than 8.5 feet long. So they can get significantly bigger than a man. Say what? Yeah. When they're walking, you would call them a pentaped, 5-footed, because they'll go front feet, back feet, tail, front, back, tail, over and over. The way they walk, front, back, tail. The front legs and the tail are doing most of the motivation there. The back legs are actually quite slender. That's why I've seen pictures of big jacked up kangaroos like this, and it looks like they must be photoshopped. They're not. That's the way they get. And when they're walking, it's because when they're walking, they're doing this all day, and their tail is doing the other. But then when they're jumping, you would call them bipeds because they jump only on the back feet. So Winnie the Pooh's author disserviced us or misled us in 2 specific ways. One, their pouches do not go like this. Their pouches go like that, like an open navel. And number 2, it is the kangaroos whose bottoms are made out of springs, not the tigers. And the springs are critically important to the kangaroo for their movement in the wild. They are covering somewhere around 15 to 20 miles per day to have enough food to eat. I can tell you when I hiked the Appalachian Trail for my sons, that we had to be pounding 5,000 calories a day to not waste away, covering 12 to 14 miles a day. And given that a kangaroo can get bigger than a man, you might think that they would need a similar calorie intake to do what they do. But they do not. That is because for a human, our legs are doing all of the moving all of the time. Walking, running, jogging, whatever. So to walk, you would say is effort of 1. The jog, you would say is effort of 3 or 4 times the effort of walking. 3 or 4 times the energy required, the calories required, whatever. To run, speed might be 6 or 8 times the effort of walking. And to Usain Bolt getting it done, 100-meter dash, might be, we need to load them. Yes, the little girl there we need. To Usain Bolt, 100-meter dash across, might be 20 times the effort of walking. Kangaroos, not so. When a kangaroo comes down out of the air, you see the tight band down the back of the leg and the one going along the bottom. This one here and this one here. Those are really tight tendons. As they come down out of the air, these stretch and stretch the tendon like that. Then when they go forward, bam, that slams back shut and flings the kangaroo forward by the force of springs, not by the energy of muscles. So to walk for a kangaroo, you would say is effort of 1. To hop slowly is also effort of 1, because that's what puts the springs into motion, is the hopping. To jump moderate speed, their normal moving around speed is about 12 to 14 miles per hour. That is effort of like 1 1/4. To Usain Bolt, 45 miles an hour, getting it done is only about double the effort of walking. So that is how they can cover vast distances in the desert on a caloric budget of only around 500 calories a day, is because of the springs, potential to kinetic, kinetic to potential, just again and again like that. And that is how they get it done in the desert. All right, I'm going to put the 2 bigger ones away. They're on 2 bottles a day. The little ones are what, about 8 bottles? It's like, come on, man.
Picking up the sunlight beans.
All right, if you 2 sit in those 2 chairs right there and hand me a phone, I'll make you a video. And you are going to hold bottles straight out in front of yourself. And after the kangaroo gets its mouth on the bottle like that, then you're going to tip it all the way upside down, just like that. And the kangaroo will probably suck it start to finish. Sometimes they don't finish these all the way, and if they don't, they want to get an extra snack. All right, what are y'all's names?
James Tierra.
James and Tierra. All right. Hey guys, we're here at the baby kangaroo bottle feeding at Ocoee Riverside Farm. We're here today with the newlyweds, James and Tierra. Rachel and Tia are feeding the baby kangaroo Phoebe. Rachel and Phoebe are both red kangaroos, but the redness of a red kangaroo is a male hormone-driven trait. So the females turn this bluish gray color right away as soon as they leave the pouch. The females in Australia they refer to as blue flyers. The males they refer to as either boomers or big reds. They also could be called bucks and does. These two, Rachel is 9.5 months old. She currently weighs 15 pounds. Phoebe is 8.5 months old. She came out of the pouch on July the 12th. So I guess she's 9 months old now. And so she weighs, I weighed her yesterday. She weighs 9 pounds. Yeah, 9.4 pounds. I weighed her yesterday. These two, nutritionally, they only need the bottles out to 10 months. But socially, the longer that you bottle feed the baby kangaroo, the friendlier kangaroo you will have. And we're about to have the friendliest kangaroos going. So these guys will get bottles all the way to 18 months. Today is September the 10th, 2025. We are at Ocoee Riverside Farm in Benton, Tennessee. Couple stills. They grow crazy fast. When they come out of the pouch, it's 7 months plus or minus a couple of days. They weigh 3.5 pounds. So in 2 months, that kangaroo has tripled in size. She's gone from 3.5 to 9.5. And this one is 1 month older than that one, and she is 15 point something. I wrote it down on the door, so now I have to look.
How big are the other two?
The other two are, Max is 29, Ruby's 27, Rachel is 15.2, and Phoebe is 9.4. And Rachel and Phoebe are 1 month apart. Ruby and Max are both 12 months old, and they weigh 29 and 27. And at the point that they go out to the breeding pen at 18 months, they'll be around 40 pounds. Gotta give Phoebe a little squeeze there. It doesn't look like hers is moving.
Is that mine?
Yeah, that's it right now.
Is it moving out?
Yeah, I think so. Phoebe is the first kangaroo that's born here on the farm. See her parents a little later on. Daddy is rough and her mom is Damani. And Damani is the one that I showed the picture of, the tiny baby inside the pouch. That was a couple of days after this one was taken from mother. And when you take a baby kangaroo from its mother to bottle feed it, mom doesn't look left, doesn't look right, doesn't follow you, doesn't wonder where you're going. Just 2 days later, she bursts another one. She was laying down when I picked the baby up. It was like half in, half out of the pouch. She didn't even stand up. Like, oh, thank you.
Now it's starting to make me.
Explain to everyone.
Sometimes if you hold her in your lap, she'll come. Hold her in your lap, you do it just like a little baby. Tail like that, and then I sink back into your, right there. Let her hum and go down. That's it. let's let the bigger two come and polish these off. And then we're gonna head off for the farm tour. Come here, guys. Come on, babies. Come on, Ruby. You see Max is red on the other guards. Oh, you silly kangaroo.
Should have gave you both of them.
They didn't want to finish. Or maybe on the shelf. So they're from Ocoee, right? Is that up there where the Lost Sea is?
That's a little more past that. We're right across from the Tyson Airport.
They call the Knoxville Airport.
Yeah. My wife rented a car there a couple weeks ago. I was searching Knoxville Airport and couldn't find anything. And I'm on budget.com. It's Teslas are a pain to drive a distance because you got to stop and charge all the time. So she was going to swing into the Knoxville Airport and grab her own and keep going. And I'm like, I know there's an airport in Knoxville. And on budget, it says Knoxville Airport, but I'm trying to find it on the map to make sure it's on the way. And on the map, it's McGee-Tyson, not Knoxville.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's weird.
They refer to it as Knoxville all the time, though.
And they're definitely not in Knoxville, they're on the way to Knoxville.
My wife's best friend flies on Southwest all the time, so I have a really sweet deal with him. She was super excited that Southwest is about to pick up service at McGee-Tyson.
Yep. I just saw that.
Do the kangaroos have split lips?
Yes, on top.
For the tortoises, is it, they're balanced too, or
Is this one? I think we'll just send one side. Here's one.
lots of people are asking, maybe it's 40,000 and not that.
I should have bought more
For all?
each,
Yeah.
but I could have got 100 if I wanted to.
Yeah.
I'm gonna do that.
Oh, there's a request from me not to be at that.
What?
The farm.
Oh, okay.
That's why I was asking, because we'll probably do one with the tortoises.
Yeah.
So, should they email Fallon, like the other stuff? Or is Donna gonna respond, or?
I don't know. So when was the